Do you want to change the color of your white seamless backdrop in Capture One without going into Photoshop? I'm going to show you how to do it right now.
Here I am where the movie started, facing at a photo they've taken. Space tree flying through the skies and petals apple everywhere.
Hey everyone, I'm Josh Mills. Welcome to another video. If this is your first time here and you want to learn more about photography, master your retouching, and all kinds of other photography related stuff, start by going ahead and hitting that subscribe below, and make sure to hit that bell notification icon so you're notified anytime I upload a new video. Alright everybody, let's go ahead and jump right on in. I'm going to show you on a couple of examples today. I'm going to show you on a brunette and also a blonde. The reason I'm showing you on both is we're going to use the Luma mask on the selection tool to separate our background and our subject. And I want to show you that you're fully able to do this whether it's a brunette or a blonde, even though you would think the luminance is very similar with the blonde. So let's go ahead and get started here. We'll start with the brunette. So the first thing you want to do is you want to go right over here into your levels panel and you want to create a new level. So you just click on the plus icon. I like to rename my layers so that they make sense to me later on. So we will call this background color. And then you want to go ahead and grab the draw mask or the paintbrush. And we want to make sure we've got a couple settings going on here. You want a size that's a good size for what you want to do. So let's make that nice and big for right now. You want a decent hardness on it, but still a nice feather on the edge. You want 100% opacity, you want 100% flow, and it's also a nice idea to have the auto mask on it so it will try and detect some of the edges for you. And then we're going to hit our M for Mary key on the keyboard, and we will start drawing our mask in here. Only selecting the background. Now what I will want to do is go right up in here and get any of the area of the hair that also has the background showing through it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to grab my eraser tool and do just a little quick cleanup here. So I'm going to make a little bit smaller brush and give Capture One a little less to work with on calculating this for us. And we're not all perfect, so it looks like I've gone a little extreme. So I will go ahead and jump right back over to my brush tool and we're going to make it a little smaller and work through here. Now we don't have to worry about the selection being perfect because the next thing we're going to do is we're going to use the Luma mask to actually refine this for us. So what we want to do is go right over here back into our layers panel, right click on it and choose Luma mask range. Now you'll see when the Luma mask comes up, you have a couple options here. You have your radius and your sensitivity, which I prefer to leave just on 0 radius and sensitivity at 50%. And then we have our range, which is going to show us our shadows and our highlights. So the first thing I want to do is, since we're making sure to select the background and it's very bright, we're going to grab the highlights and take them all the way to the far right, so 255. The next thing we want to do is we want to grab our shadows, and this is what's going to let it separate it for us. So we grab our shadows and start moving that also to the right. And as I do this, you can see that the hair and her are starting to get separated from everything. And I actually want to go a little bit further to where you start seeing some of this haloing going on. Because then what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the fall off, which is on the lower side of this ladder here. And I'm going to start pulling it back until everything looks a little more natural. So now it's starting to look nice to me. And one final thing that we can do to kind of refine that edge is grab that radius. And you don't want to go extreme because it'll get really crispy. But if you want to do it in, the 0.5 to 1.5 pixel range, it'll refine it a little bit better for you. And then I'm going to hit apply, and you know what? I didn't get that shoulder separated. It must have a really bright highlight on it. So I'm just going to grab my eraser tool and clean it up. And by the way, while I have the eraser tool selected, I also have that auto mask feature enabled on it, so it tries to detect the edges for me as well. There we go. Looks good to me. We're going to come in here and do a little bit more cleanup, and then we can turn that mask off. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and jump down into the color balance panel, which if you're in Capture One, right up here at the top, you'll see the 3 little circles. That is your color panel. And down below, you'll see color balance. A lot of times when you open up the color balance, it will have either the master or the 3-way showing. All you need to do is go right over and click on highlight, because all we're working with are the highlights in this image, because that background is so bright. And once I have highlight selected, I can grab the center right here and I can drag it out to the edge, and that throws color right into where we're working. To really intensify it, it's by dragging it out to the edge, it's full saturation, but you can also grab the luminance slider over here and slide it down to really intensify that color while you're trying to pick what color you want to work with. So then I'm going to grab this and I'm just going to come around the circle until I find the color that I want to work with here. Ooh, and that teal is looking really nice. So now I've got this nice teal which complements the orange of her skin, but it's really intense. So subjectively to me, I'm not a fan of that really saturated look. I can do 2 things. I can bring up the luminance, which is going to lighten it a bit. Or I can grab the saturation, I can bring the saturation down. Or a combination of both. And find a happy medium. Another thing you can do is you can leave your luminance and your saturation super high, and you can come back up here to your actual layer in the layer panel, and then you have this slider right here for opacity, and you can change the opacity of that layer. So you can back it off here. So you actually have 3 ways to control how intense that color is going to be. And I'm going to leave it on the opacity here and just play with it a little bit. So it's just a nice hint to the background. And then if I want to see the difference here, I can actually go over to this checkbox and I can toggle that on and off and see the before and after. And you see that I've changed the color of that background. And at any time, if I want to change it to a different color, I just come right back over here into the color balance and I can swing that around and see all of the full range of color. And I can always change the opacity of the layer and the intensity with the saturation and luminance on the color balance wheel. That's, you know what? I kind of like that purple there. That's nice. All right, so let's go ahead and jump over to a blonde so I can show you that we can fully do this also with the blonde. It's a little bit more challenging because the blonde hair has a similar luminance to the white, but it's still not difficult and easy to achieve. So I've got this blonde here and I was actually playing with the layer already, so let me get rid of that one so we can start fresh. So obviously we have a blonde with much lighter hair and she's on a white backdrop, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go ahead and create a new layer. I'm going to go ahead and rename it. So, oops. Background color. And then I'm going to go ahead and grab my paintbrush, make sure my settings are good, increase my brush size, and start making my selection. And obviously you want to go over the parts of the hair that the background is showing through. And then I'm going to grab my eraser. I'm going to go through and just clean up that area. That looks good to me. And then we're going to do the same exact thing. We're going to right click on that layer. We're going to do Luma Range. And here's where our challenge is going to be. Since her hair is a very similar luminance, we're going to have to play with it a little bit more. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here and see where I can get to her hair coming out of this. And you'll see that I'm starting to lose those corners in my mask. So then I'm going to feather it back out. And then I'm going to play with my radius. And my sensitivity a little bit, just to find that selection. All right, looking good. And then let's go ahead and jump over into color balance again and find a color that works for us. Let's see about something very similar to her eye color maybe. Matching her eye color makes her kind of blend in a little bit more. So let's go back up into that teal range. Nice teal like that. And this time, instead of doing the opacity of the layer, I'm just going to do this with the luminance and saturation. So let's bring that luminance up a little bit and bring that saturation down. There we go. That looks nice to me. And then obviously you can go back up here and you can toggle the visibility of that layer on and off and see the difference in your shot. And you can see where it's come through. It's changed the color even in between her individual hairs. And that's how we do it. Plain and simple, saves you a little bit of time from jumping over into Photoshop to do the same kind of change and, you know, keeping it all in Capture One. Now, whenever it comes to doing other colors of background, really, it kind of depends on luminance values. So doing it on a neutral gray or doing it on a black, it would be possible. Neutral gray is very difficult, but black is absolutely possible. You would just do it in the opposite direction. So instead of taking your luminance sliders all the way to the far right in the luminance range and bringing the shadows up, you take the shadows all the way to the far left and bring your highlights down. And then refine it from there, and you could absolutely separate the black background from your subject. All right, everybody, well, thank you for joining me, and make sure to hit that like and subscribe below. Hit that bell notification icon so you're notified anytime I upload a new video. Thanks again. Have a good day, guys.